During the 2015 Crew season, UCSB received a four-man shell named the Bob Hillen from USC. But most people at UCSB probably don't know who Bob Hillen was and what his important role was in the start of UCSB Crew. First, let's take a look at Bob Hillen, the man. Born in Goldfield, Nevada in 1917, Robert Hillen was raised in Sacramento and attended Sacramento Junior College, where he was first introduced to the sport of rowing. He transferred to UCLA in 1936, where he lettered as a coxswain for 3 years. Bob began his crew coaching career in Sacramento, guiding local high school and junior college teams. He then returned to UCLA in 1940 as an assistant, before becoming the co-head coach there in 1946. Hillen, who graduated from UCLA in 1939, had been coxswain under UCLA coach Ben Wallace. Bob took over the program at UCLA after Wallace's death in 1947. At the request of Julian Wolf, a former UCLA oarsman who was attending USC graduate school, Hillen went to USC on a part-time basis in 1948 as the school's coach. He stayed at USC for the next 43 years as crew coach. Hillen made his living as a physical education coach in the Santa Monica School District and coached the Trojan crew team without pay from 1948 to 1965. He helped USC build its boathouse in the Los Angeles Harbor in 1961 and began coaching the women's team in the mid-1970s. While at USC, he coached Con Finley, who went on to compete at 3 Olympics, winning the gold in Melbourne in 1956 and bronze medals in Rome in 1960 and in Tokyo in 1964. Ironically, Con Finley also was part of the UCSB Crew early years, but we'll get back to that later. Well respected in the sport, Hillen was a member of the U.S. Olympic Rowing Committee and the board of directors of the National Association of Amateur Oarsmen. He helped coach the U.S. team at the 1971 Pan American Games. At the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, he was on the site selection committee. Sadly, Bob Hillen died March 16, 2003, after a long battle with Parkinson's disease. Now for the part Bob Hillen played in the UCSB Crew Club story. Shortly after the UCSB Crew Club was first formed in the spring of 1965, Goleta engineer Gary Ray, veteran of Oregon State's rowing program, was recruited to coach the new club. At a coaches meeting at Long Beach State in the summer of 1965, Gary talked USC coach Bob Hillen into loaning the new crew club a used USC shell, then being used by Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. The boat was finally delivered in November 1965. It was Con Finley, Bob's former USC student oarsman, now an agent for Pocock Shells in Seattle, who trailered the used shell from Loyola to UCSB. Con later delivered the first new Pocock shells and oars leased by UCSB from Pocock in 1967. He too was an important UCSB crew supporter in the beginning. Although old and heavy, the borrowed shell was a platform for the UCSB Crew Club to begin practice. In UCSB's first season of Crew, 1966, one of the first races in which UCSB competed was Hillen's team on March 25th, and USC beat them soundly. Hillen felt sorry for the newly organized team and invited them to come back during spring break the following week to train with his USC teams in Los Angeles Harbor. A tough but knowledgeable taskmaster, Hillen gave UCSB's oarsmen much-needed training and support. Although a competing coach, Bob was willing to give a helping hand or advice to the fledgling UCSB Crew Club, and without his help, the club may never have gotten going. So when you see the Bob Hillen name on the new four-man shell, you will know the story of its namesake and how he was a critical part of UCSB Crew's early days.